So you're looking for a personal launch monitor and you're looking for a GPS. Why not combine the two in a simple solution that will fit in your pocket, the Garmin G80 Approach. Now, I'm not too interested in what this G80 Approach can do out on the golf course as a GPS unit. I'm more interested to see what it can do as a launch monitor. To test its accuracy, I'm going to be putting it up against my FlightScope launch monitor, which is a dedicated machine and highly accurate. Can something this small and relatively inexpensive give us data parameters that somewhat align to such an expensive machine? We'll find that out later on in the video. First thing I want to do is find out a little bit more about this machine, how easy it is to use, and what its features are like. Let's take a look. Now, like most men, I don't really look at instruction manuals, but the great thing with this G80 Approach is it's incredibly intuitive and easy to use. All we need to do to begin with is press this button up at the top, hold that down for a second or so, and that's going to kick in this little machine and get it started. After a few short moments, we enter this main menu. Now, as I said before, I'm not particularly interested in the GPS capabilities in this review. I'm only really interested in the launch monitor capabilities. We need to press this little warm-up button here up at the top, and this brings us into this screen where we've got estimated carry. I'm not particularly interested in estimated roll, that's of no real use. We've got club head speed, ball speed, we've got smash factor, and we've got tempo. Tempo, I'm not particularly interested in either, to be honest. Now all we need to do is put the unit down on the ground in the correct way, and Garmin, the clever so-and-sos, have put this little kind of crater in the back of the unit. I didn't know what that was to begin with, and I've got to be honest, I did have to look at the instruction manual to find out what it does. But you just position that over the top of the golf ball, so that the unit sits flush on the ground perfectly so that you can read the information whilst you're hitting your shots. And that is really clever. Something else that is clever as well, and I like it, it's simple, but I like the fact that it's got a raised edge all the way around. That's going to keep the screen away from the floor, and that's going to stop the screen from getting scratched. Now, I'm not going to test the scratch capabilities or the resistance of this machine because it's not mine and I'll get told off. Now, the screen is quite glary, so on a really bright sunny day, it may be a little bit of a struggle to see the numbers on the screen, but if it's a dull day or you're hitting balls inside a driving range, it's probably not going to be too much of a problem. All around, this little unit feels incredibly well made. It feels like it could take a drop or two. I'm not going to be doing any drop tests. Again, it ain't mine. Now let's do some testing. Let's get this Approach G80 from Garmin up against that FlightScope machine, see how close the data is. Now, before we dive into the number comparisons with this Garmin and the FlightScope, I just want to mention the usability. God, it's easy. You just place it within a foot of the ball, facing towards the golf ball, with the ball in this little cup, and Bob's your uncle, off you pop. Let's take a look at the numbers and see how close this little machine got to the FlightScope machine. There's quite a big discrepancy in price and in size. So the first numbers I'm going to look at is my gap wedge that I was hitting. Now, with the FlightScope, the carry distance for that was 120 yards. With this little Garmin machine, it was actually 110, so it was a little bit off. Ball speed with my FlightScope was 93 miles an hour, 89 miles an hour with the Garmin. Now, I've got to point out that these weren't the same shots being measured by these two machines. They were different shots, so there may be some subtle discrepancies because I'm not a robot. Club speed with the FlightScope with the gap wedge was 80 miles an hour. It was actually 72 miles an hour with the Garmin. So again, they weren't the same shots. And to be honest, I'm not that worried about my club speed with a wedge. Now moving into a mid-iron carry distance, 178 with the FlightScope, 168 with the Garmin, so there is a 10-yard difference again. And you may find that yourself as well. If you buy one of these machines, maybe go to a professional who's got a launch monitor, put them against each other, and if you can find that there's a consistent difference, then you just do a little bit of basic calculation, basic math, and then you've got your yardages. Now this is where the little Garmin does start to get quite impressive. Ball speed with the Garmin was 118, ball speed with the FlightScope 119, so really close there. And club speed with the FlightScope for the mid-iron 87, Garmin 87. Now into the driver figures, the really important ones, because everybody wants to be on the range smashing it and see how far they're hitting it. Driver with the Garmin 267, with the FlightScope 268, so within a yard. Ball speed, FlightScope 158, 158 with the Garmin. And club speed, Garmin 109, FlightScope 109, both exactly the same over those last two numbers, particularly close with regards to the carry distance. So all in all, I'm incredibly impressed by this little machine. It's not particularly expensive, it's also a GPS unit, and if you haven't got your own personal launch monitor, buy one. It's not often that I'll say this about a product on this channel. Go out and buy it, because apart from the club speed with the wedge, which you shouldn't really be that worried about to be honest, and the fact that it maybe just knocks the yardage down a little bit with your irons, this machine is absolutely brilliant for its size, its portability and ease of use. So have you got a Garmin G80 Approach? Have you used one? What do you think? I'd love to hear in the comments box below. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it as well. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet for some reason, please do so. Red button's down there. And until next time, happy whacking.